Cut. देखो एक रोल गिरा रहा, गिरा दो, उठाओ. A few months back, a friend of mine sent me a poster. The film club of our college was organizing a filmmaking competition. It was a one-shot filmmaking competition, and I get really excited by one-shots. It creates really interesting scenarios and everything, and that's why I was like, we need to do this. We should do this. This is like a good opportunity to really experiment with one shot. So first things first, what is one shot? Because there is sometimes a confusion between one shot and one take. One take is basically you trying to get a scene in one go. Doesn't matter if you mess up, you do not do it again. To understand this, you can look at stage plays or theater. They are basically one takes because they're performing live in front of the audience, and even if they mess up, like if someone forgets their line or something, they do not redo it. They continue with it and they improvise. That's what one take is. Now, to understand one shot, even though I've already talked about one take, you need to understand how usually films work. When you're watching a film, you might have noticed that they cut between different angles, different shots. There is a close-up, there's a wide, there's an ultra wide, sometimes there's a drone shot, there's a top-down shot. They keep cutting between different types of shots in every single scene. That's how usually films are filmed or shot. One shots, on the other hand, mean that while filming a particular scene, you cannot use more than one shot and you cannot cut. So that was the challenge, that you have to make an entire film, doesn't matter how long, in one shot. And that was exciting because it's fun. It's really fun to actually prepare a story, keeping this in mind that it's going to be one shot and how you're going to do things. Now, one shots are not new or something. They have been used in films since a very long time. Directors like Spielberg use a lot of one shots in his films. Now, one shots have this tendency to create some sort of intensity or increase the level of intensity in a particular scene without making people realize why. Because psychologically, we are so trained to ignore cuts while watching films that when it's not cutting, it creates this different experience in their mind, even when they don't know what's happening. One of my favorite ones is from this film called Children of Men. It has this, I think, 8-minute long one shot. Now, the film I'm talking about is Still Remains. We made it back in February earlier this year, and if you haven't seen it yet, you can again go and watch it. I'll leave a link somewhere in the description or over here somewhere. Now, as much as I enjoyed filming Still Remains, writing the story and the screenplay was some other experience because you cannot use different types of shots. You have to move the camera to tell a better story. When we were writing, me and Shubha, we were discussing what can we do different, what's something we haven't seen so far in a one-shot film, and that's where this idea came. Why not we use the camera as an actual character in the film and influence not only the story but the decisions of other characters. This made us kind of feel really excited about this thing, like, okay, we can do that, like, let's do that, let's make the camera a character in the story. And I don't know how many people noticed that. I have literally no idea. We're still learning how to convey the exact meaning to the audience. And then we started building the story that, okay, what can we do to make this thing happen? And we had this idea, okay, what if the camera is trying to do something or trying to stop someone, which led to the idea of the camera trying to stop someone from doing something. Ragni's character, whose name is again Ragni in the film, which is weird because we made an audio film a while ago, and in that film as well, Ragni was playing a character whose name was Ragni. Ragni is going on a vacation. She's a widow, so she's going on a vacation with her boyfriend, and her ex-husband is trying to stop her from going. And that was the catch, that the ex-husband is the camera. So when the film begins, he is watching everything and how he would move around. One of my favorite sequences on the film is when we had to figure out a way to get inside the house, because we were supposed to start the film from outside the house. So we thought about this, that what if we make the camera, because it's a ghost, so he can do things. He will knock. Obviously you cannot see someone knocking, you'll just hear the knock. Ragni will open the door. She wouldn't be able to see anyone out there, so she'll go downstairs, call the watchman. In the meantime, the camera can get inside the house. So that sequence I really like. The final my shot was exactly how we planned it to be, and that's why I was really happy with it. And now the camera, or the ex-husband, is constantly trying to create interruptions in her life, and she is just trying to understand whatever is going on, and eventually the camera does something which kind of makes her feel that she's doing something wrong, and that's the whole story. Now, fun fact, this wasn't the original idea me and Shubhak had. In the original idea, we had Ragini, instead of going on a vacation, trying to get intimate with her boyfriend, and in the ghost of the ex-husband trying to prevent that from happening. It's the same plot, but a quirky version of it. It wasn't even called Still Remains by then. We were calling it, I think, Honey, I'm Home.
एक रात we failed at casting, कोई नहीं मिल रहा था. Then we were like, चलो रागनी तो finalized है. Let's think अब क्या कर सकते हैं. इसको कुछ घुमाते हैं, आगे पीछे करते हैं, कुछ तो करते हैं इसके साथ. Like ऐसा करते हैं ना. Let's हाँ. Like they both came together. Let's make this story start from like वो बंदा आने वाला है. Her boyfriend is coming, and she is doing something. तो क्या करें? What should we do? तो वहाँ पे we were stuck कि क्या करें. Then we were like, let's send them on holiday. Like अच्छा ठीक है. That's how it started, I think, right?
While we were writing it, we had to plan interruptions and the camera movements, where the camera will be at every single point of time, and what kind of interruptions can we do with the camera. So we had the light fluctuations, we had the cigarettes to burn the tickets, and then eventually the big one where Ragni's sketch falls in front of her. All these things we planned while we were writing it. The only difference was that we didn't know where we are going to shoot it. So when we actually reached there, we had to actually plan the movements specifically according to the location, because every apartment is built differently, so like we couldn't really draw how the camera is going to move, but overall outline was pretty same. So we started with the rehearsals. For that, we went to one of our really close friends' house. He was kind enough to allow us to rehearse. So me, Vishal and Ragini, we went there. We tried to figure out how can we move in the space, how the camera will move, what Ragini would be doing, and after all that we realized that it's not really matching with the image we had in our mind, so we had to like shift to a different place, and that is what you see in the film. The place you see in the film is an Airbnb, which is not really good, to be honest. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a beautiful place, but we tried to make it look like a house, as if someone lives there. When we were rewatching it, we realized that, okay, why is the fridge so small? Why is there an induction on the floor in the background? Some of the things we even fixed, like the lights in the corridor were too bright, so we had to stick some papers on them to reduce the brightness. And we did the same thing with the kitchen lights because they were also too bright.
मेरे दिमाग में चल रहा था कि अगर मैंने ये सिगरेट चलाते हुए मैंने ऐसे पफ लेते हुए ऐसे दिखा दिया उसमें, तो मेरे मम्मी पापा को दिखेगा वो चीज वीडियो में दिखेगी कि ये तो भैया सिगरेट पी रही, तो कुछ हो ही नहीं रहा है, आराम से पी रही है। ऑल्दो मैं नहीं पीती, मैं स्मोक नहीं करती, लेकिन तब भी वो मेरे लिए अजीब था। मतलब एक पफ लेने में ऐसे कोई बुरा नहीं था, पर तभी मेरे लिए अजीब था कि मतलब एक्टिंग में भी इवन कि नहीं यार नहीं करना, ये जो चीज मैं नहीं करती हूँ उसको नहीं करना है ऐसे करके। तो उसके हम लोगों ने बहुत तरीके सोचे थे जगह जगह, और उसमें से एक वही था कि साइड में कोई खड़ा होगा, मैं सिगरेट की एक्टिंग करूंगी, कैमरा नीचे जाएगा, कोई जली हुई सिगरेट मुझे पकड़ाएगा, और वो भी कैसे पकड़ाएगा, खुद एक पफ लेके धुआं निकालेगा, तो ताकि ऐसा लगे कि मैंने पफ लेके धुआं निकाला है।
The most challenging part was of Vishal, because Vishal had to manage the entire background while I am filming Ragini. So I'm behind the camera all the time. Ragini is in front of the camera all the time. So all the things that the camera is supposed to be doing in the film were actually done by Vishal. On his cue, he would start turning the lights on and off. He would blow the cigarette on the paper. He would open the door using a transparent thread. Using the same idea, he would pull the sketch down on the floor while also flickering the lights, while also playing two characters in the film. He's the guy who plays the milkman. He's the same guy who plays her boyfriend by the end of the film. And he had to do the whole thing in one go because we are not cutting. So he had to start while being dressed as the milkman. Then he had to come inside the house, do the light thing, do all the other things, then go outside the house, change his clothes, and come back in as the boyfriend again and again. He did the most amount of work out of all of us.
जब मेरे को रागनी को हक करना था ना, मैंने कहा इसको दीदी बोलता हूँ, और मैं भाई मेरे को सच हूँ, मैं हुआ नहीं था वो ठीक से, तो वो एक ही टेक में पूरा लास्ट चांस में हुआ ना, जब वो मेरे को खुद ही लगा, मैंने कहा मैं कैसे बात करूं इसको, ऐसा लग रहा है छोटा भाई मिलने के लिए अभी दीदी से। मैंने कहा मेरे को भी लग रहा है वो चीज देख के।
We did, I think, in total around 13 or 14 takes. The 12th take was almost pretty much how we expected it to be. So we were fine with it, but we thought that we can still do better. So we did the 13th take. And Ragni had to leave for office. So that was the last take she could do. So she did the take. She did the entire thing. We were going perfectly fine. Like everything was happening perfectly until the last dialogue. Because of all the tension and all the things that were going on in her mind, Ragni broke character. And the take was ruined. So the take we used in the film, or I should say as the film, was the 12th take that we took right before that. The 13th take is not very different from the 12th one. It's just more smooth and it looks much defined. So not much was lost, but we all were pretty upset by the end that we almost did it, but we still didn't do it. Now, editing the film was supposed to be very simple. All I had to do was to take the whole sequence and drop it on the timeline. That's it. At the start credits, at the end credits, you're done. But it wasn't really like that, because in the actual take, I'm screaming all the time at Vishal to do something. Those things we are supposed to remove and then add the dialogues, which also got removed along with it. And we couldn't do that properly because we all were not in the same city. So we had to do that on call. Like, I'd call Ragini, she'll record a scene trying her best to sync with the film, then send it over to me. I'll listen to it, I'll try to sync it with the film, and I'll tell her if it's good or not. This whole thing is really frustrating for all of us. So eventually, we just dubbed the things we needed. Doesn't matter how hard I tried, we just couldn't get it the way we wanted it. Even when you're watching the film, you can very clearly notice the difference between the actual sound from the actual take and the dubbed one, and it just doesn't sound very nice. I just couldn't make the dubbed dialogues sound like they were from that location. We did have a lot of sound effects from the location, like the opening and closing of the doors, the creaks, the sketch falling, but the dialogues were not good, both in writing and in how they sound. Other than that, all I had to do was to color grade the footage as much as I can, and that's the film. In conclusion, doesn't matter how the film turned out eventually, we got to learn a lot. I got to experiment with one shot. When we saw the final film, we were, even if not really happy, we were still happy that we made something which we can present to everyone else. And we got that bit of confidence from the event, which actually went for which we were making the film. We won. Somehow. That's pretty much it. The sun is gone. So if the end footage looked really bad, I'm so sorry, but I had to do this today because I was just stalling the video again and again every single time, and I had to finish it. Do let me know what do you think about one-shot films. If you have seen any, if you just remember any particular sequence from a particular film, what do you think about them, and what do you think about Still Remains? I love to know what you guys think. All right, take care of yourself. Don't get yourself killed. I'll see you next weekend. Yeah, I'll see you next weekend.
इधर ही लगाना नीचे इसका ऐसे करके लगा दो।
अब तो बचे हैं स्केचेस।
मैं भी तो लौट आऊंगा, हवाओं सा गुनगुनाऊंगा। कितने वादे कितनी बातें बाकी हैं, कितने दिन कितनी रातें बाकी हैं। तुम जब पास आती हो, पलकों से मुस्कुराती हो, हवाएं भी